Such tiny things, sperm have a big job on their hands. Not only do they have to swim to the womb and through it, but then they need to catch themselves the prize, attach themselves to an egg. But despite the fact that fertilization has been studied by scientists for over a century, until now they only know of one protein that's essential for this meet and greet. It's called Izumo. Izumo was discovered in 2005. It sits on the sperm's head, and if it's faulty or missing, the sperm can't fuse with the egg. But Izumo can't work alone. It needs a partner on the egg, a receptor, to bind to. In this week's Nature, researchers present a mate for Izumo. It's a receptor on the egg's surface, and it gladly welcomes Izumo with open arms. I spoke to author Enrica Bianchi at the Wellcome Trust Sanger Institute in Cambridge, UK, and began by asking her why the search for Izumo's friend has been a decade long.
Fertilization is itself a quite difficult subject to handle because you have very limited material to work with, and also usually the interaction of proteins that are expressed on the surface of cells are transient and weak, so they are quite difficult to be studied.
So can you talk us through how you discovered this receptor?
We took advantage of some technologies that were developed in the lab to express Izumo in a modified version, and this modification renders the interaction, the binding, more stable and so more easy for us to be studied. And this is how we were able finally to identify the binding partner for Izumo.
And you've given it a name.
Yeah, the protein was already present in the databases, but then we showed that it is essential for fertilization, so we proposed to rename it Juno after the Roman goddess of fertility and marriage.
And to check that Juno plays a role in fertilization, you carried out various experiments.
Yeah, first of all, we wanted to see whether the antibody against Juno was able to block fertilization in vitro, and we showed that the antibody was able to block fertilization completely because the antibody binds to the surface of the egg, preventing the sperm to bind to their receptor. And then, obviously, we had to show that the protein was functional in vivo, and to do that, we generated mice that lack Juno, and these mice are healthy, they develop normally, and only the female are sterile. And this is because their oocytes are unable to bind with sperm.
So is this interaction between Izumo on the sperm and Juno on the egg the only thing that's needed for successful fusion?
Well, it's a complicated question, actually, to be honest. This is not sufficient per se as interaction to trigger fusion, but it is essential. So if you have either a Juno or Izumo protein that are not functional, sperm and egg are not able to bind and to fuse. So fertilization cannot occur successfully if you don't have these two proteins functional.
You also got another surprise when you looked for Juno on the fertilized egg.
Yeah. We knew from data available in the literature that sperm are not able to bind to fertilized eggs, and this is a mechanism that mammalian oocytes use to prevent more than one sperm to fuse with the egg, because what you want to have is one egg fertilized by one sperm in order to have a viable embryo. When we check for the expression, for the presence of Juno on the surface of eggs immediately after fertilization, we realize that the protein disappears very quickly from the surface of the egg, 30-40 minutes after fertilization. And this is in good agreement with the mechanism the oocytes are able to put in place to prevent more than one sperm fuse with them.
Can these findings shed any light on infertility as we understand it?
Well, infertility has become an increasing problem, especially in the Western country. And it is remarkable that 20% of infertility cases have an unexplained cause, so we don't know what's going on there. And we are now testing whether Juno is involved in these cases of unexplained infertility. So it might be that Juno defects are responsible for cases of infertility in women, and we are checking these cases.
And in terms of contraceptives, do any current contraceptives already target this interaction between the sperm and the egg?
No, no.
Okay, so there's room now for this research to feed into the development of contraceptives that would target this interaction.
Yeah, if Juno could be exploited to develop a contraceptive devices, that would be great. And also, no new contraceptive devices have been introduced for humans since the pill in the 60s, basically.
That was Enrica Bianchi on the line from Cambridge, UK.